everyone. Welcome to yet another edition of hippoBrain, where we have amazing conversations with hippo-sized brains. Today, our guest is Rajiv Dhingra. Rajiv is the founder and CEO of RD&X network. We'll talk to him about that. The X has a very interesting story in there, I'm sure. And earlier, founder and CEO of What Consult. He started his entrepreneurial journey at age of 20. But more importantly, he was Jaimit's student, and that's where we'll begin our story. Over to you, Jaimit.
Yes, Rajesh. I've had the pleasure I've been teaching for, 19 years now. And I first met Rajiv, and I don't know why we used to call him Dhingra at that point of time, is quite a character in my class. And he has more stories about that than me. But his class was an interesting class, and a lot of them have stayed in touch after 18, 19 years. I can count them as friends today, and I can count Rajiv as a friend today. And it's not quite often that I see students of mine being in touch over so many years, 17, 18, 16 years, and continue to grow the relationship into friendship. Rajiv is that kind of a guy. And I've seen his journey through his various ups and downs as an entrepreneur. I can tell you there is an interesting angle. He once got so pissed, and I don't want to give too much, he punched glass. And he has an epiphany sitting on a hospital bed. But we will come to all these beautiful stories. This guy has a superpower of building something in an era that nobody even understood what it was. And he built What Consult in front of my eyes. And I'm so proud of this boy, now man. And I'm so happy to count him as one of my close and dear friends, Rajiv Dhingra. Rajiv, What Consult, the story of entrepreneurship and What Consult before we come to RD&X. Over to you.
Thank you, Jaimit, and thank you for the really kind words. So for me, Jaimit is always going to be Jaimit sir. We used to call him sir all the time. And before I start the story of What Consult, I must add to that what he mentioned about him in class. So Jaimit had such a profound impact on the 60 of us when he entered class. He had almost a flamboyant superstar, Hollywood star like personality, and obviously the guys were in awe of him, and the women were swooning over him. That's what I remember. He used to wear these shorts and come to class, and he was somebody who was completely out of the box. So I remember the first time some professor took us out of class into the college campus near the canteen to do a class. Like we were not in the actual classroom, it's outside classroom. The first professor, he was also very young. I think our youngest professor. So we all connected with him. And the story that he has, or the anecdote I would want to share is Jaimit sir used to give out these munch or perk chocolates for right answers. He used to pose a problem in marketing and then ask for right answers. And whoever gave the right answer, he used to throw it across the class and used to catch it like that. Okay. So I was the only student in that entire year, right? Across my class. I think he must have taken at least 30, 40 lectures that year. Only student who got a munch and a perk for the wrong answer. So he threw it to me. I caught it. And I half expected him. I don't even remember the question. I don't remember the answer. But I caught it. And he told me, I gave you that not because you're right, but because of the way you said that answer. And I was like, okay. And it's been 16 years to that day. And I still remember it like it was yesterday, of catching that munch and feeling so proud about how I said something rather than being right. And honestly, that helped me a lot, because I'm in the business of pitching and convincing clients, and not many times you say things that you are not sure are right or wrong, but you say it. So how you say it matters as much as what you are saying is a lesson I learned from Jaimit sir that day when he threw that munch or perk at me, and I had a gala time eating it and showing it to everyone, making everybody jealous in class. So that was an amazing memory. It still stays with me.
And Rajiv, sorry, just to interrupt you. I don't think I have ever thrown a munch ever for a wrong answer ever except you. So you are not one in that year. You are one in 18 years. But go ahead on your what concern
I made a
story.
lot of money on how to say things. So that credit goes to you, sir. Yeah. So yeah, fantastic. Those are fantastic memories. Yeah. So I think the journey of starting What Consult started with the journey of starting a venture before that when I was 20, which was Jobs for Freshers. But even before that, I think the first time I said that I want to be a businessman or an entrepreneur was when I was 13 years old, and that's a very unique story. It's a emotionally charged story, so as to say. I had just lost my mother due to cancer, and of course, like it happens in our homes, you know, a lot of people come over to give their condolences, and that is what had happened. The backstory to this is that while my mother was unwell with cancer, my father was transferred due to Reserve Bank of India to Chandigarh and then Ahmedabad. So during her suffering, he couldn't be with her, right? And of course, as a 11, 12-year-old child, this impacted me as well. You know, so this was the background, and the aunties, you know, they come home and they are like talking to the child, talking to me. I was 13. So they asked that question that they ask every child, you know, what will you become when you grow up? Kya banega bada hoke? Doctor banega, engineer banega. You'll become a doctor or engineer, you know, kya karega? This is 1993 to be exact, right? So, sorry, 1998 to be exact. Sorry, not 1993, 1998. So, I looked at her, that auntie, dead in the eyes, and I said, "मैं business करूँगा." She's like, "Business करेगा?" And she was, you know, little taken aback. You know, business करेगा, doctor नहीं बनेगा, engineer नहीं बनेगा. She was trying to insist that I should study, and then I answered her, नहीं मैं business करूँगा क्योंकि मेरे को transfer नहीं होना है कहीं भी. You know, it was a very emotional answer from a 13-year-old who had just lost his mother. But that's the first time I said I wanted to do business, and I saw this idea that you can be transferred anywhere against your will as the worst thing ever in a job. And I realized that if I do business, I will never have to be transferred. And honestly, after that day, saying that thing, I forgot all about it, right? Because you forget, right? You move ahead in life, and I did college. It was not like I नहीं था कि मतलब इसके बाद एकदम business करेगा. I didn't want to start business. Taught me my final year project. I wanted to do on something different. Okay. And I said advertising I always had an interest in, because I had realized that during the 3 years of BMS in Jain college that I am interested in advertising. But I also now felt that I wanted to do something different in advertising. And at that time in 2005, I realized online advertising is coming up. So my final year dissertation, without knowing that this is the industry I was going to get into, I did because I wanted to be different than other people. Even as I think as a student, I was very different. I was not a very social student. I was one of those aloof students who were mistaken to be arrogant. I'm pretty sure everybody in my class hated me during college. And I don't have any problems with that, because I used to focus on getting, you know, the projects done the fastest. I was like a teacher's pet sometimes. So hate was well deserved in that case. But that online advertising project took me to, at that time, Media Turf. And I met people from Media Turf there. And I did like the whole project, and it seemed very interesting. I'll be very honest, it was a lot of bouncer that went above my head at that time, right? But some of it stayed, right? And I, again, then forgot about it, right? It wasn't that immediately I wanted to start into a venture. Like everybody else in college, I took up campus placement, which paid the highest. You know, I'm Sindhi, so paying the highest campus placement is the first thing you take. And what happened around that time when I was about to graduate is that my girlfriend for 1.5 years broke off with me, right? So as a 20-year-old, your first girlfriend, she was my first girlfriend, who broke off. And 1.5 years of relationship. So I thought she is my, you know, forever kind. And I took it very hard. I'll be very honest. And I think in general, you know, sense of loss I had already faced 5 years ago. So this was another loss, and I didn't know how to cope with it, right? And this is a very funny story. In that campus placement, I was put in a risk consulting firm where immediately within the first 7 days, I was sent on a 21-day trip to Aurangabad with another chartered accountant with no computer. So no laptop of mine, or there was no laptop.
Practically, you got transferred in 7 days.
Yes, exactly. To Aurangabad in a 3-star hotel with lizards and all that. But that wasn't the worst part of it. The worst part was, here I was going through a heartbreak, and this senior chartered accountant was engaged and fully in love with his girlfriend. And every night he used to talk for 2 hours, lovey-dovey talk, because we were in the same room with 2 single beds. And I had to try and cringe and move around, trying to sleep. And I'm like, please stop this. Okay. And I took up that job thinking, they said marketing audit will also happen because it's the audit risk consulting firm. So they should do audit. So I said, no, I will do marketing audit will happen. All I was taking papers from one department, giving it to him, taking papers from another department, giving it to him. This is 2005. Remember, there's no way to call anyone. Calling is very expensive. And he on weekends left me all alone in Aurangabad and went to meet his, fiance. And there I am, the only person in shorts on the streets of Aurangabad. Everybody is wearing pants and chappals. South Bombay boy who used to be the marketing festival head in his college days, totally lost and disillusioned. Very, very tough. Trust me, I'm making light of the situation, but that 20-year-old was disturbed to some extent, right? And very much in love, but heartbroken. Okay, and so what I did is in 21 days, I quit that job and I came back home, and kudos to my father, he didn't kick me out of the house. And I told my dad that, I'm not doing this job, right? And if Rajiv Dhingra, because in my head, I was something else only, when you get out of South Bombay, Jain college, you're like, okay, you're the king of the world, you were marketing head and all of that. So I said, if I cannot find a proper job, what about other poor graduates? I'm going to solve this problem, I said. And that's what started my first venture, which was a job site for freshers called jobsforfreshers.com. And my poor dad, he was scandalized. All of 20-year-old, I started a private limited firm, made him the other director, made him sign all these kind of documents way back in 2005. He was horrified. I started the business right from this house, which I'm sitting in right now in Andheri in 2005. And that was the start of entrepreneurship for me. I had no idea what I was getting into. I didn't even know what a job site looked like. I found a designer from somewhere. I found a Australia-based outsourced developer, and I built that. I scaled it into 40,000 resume, 1,000 job postings. I still remember I used to go as Rahul to collect the checks from the guys who were paying for job posting. So I used to call them. I used to say, "Mera office assistant aa raha hai, Rahul, he'll come and collect the check." And then I used to go in my chappals and jeans, go collect the first check like this. I collected was from Goregaon. I still remember it was for 1,000 bucks. After 4 months of building that job site, the first money I got as a business, I remember it was at 11th or 12th floor in a Goregaon building. And I remember walking down all the stairs down because I was looking at that check and walking down like that. So a very emotional moment. You can't forget these things. But yeah, I mean, that's how started my journey as an entrepreneur at the age of 20, jobs for freshers. And a year and a half into it, I failed raising money twice. First, I was about to raise about 16 lakh rupees, which did not happen because everybody wanted to, buy off the product, the equity and all. And I said no again when I was trying to raise 90 lakh rupees for this. And 2005, even raising 90 lakh rupees was some achievement, right? Many stories, of course, many things, many failures around that time. I realized that while I understood how to run a job site and I understood what I really enjoyed about the whole process was marketing that job site, right? I felt I wanted to know more about the marketing because now I had the product built. But if I could learn more about online marketing and how to scale that up, that would give me more insights, And that's where I did a job in Nariman Point in a IT firm that wanted to start online advertising. This is the only job I have done in my life for 6 months, right? I did it for 6 months between 2005 to 2006, right? And that's where the idea of starting an online marketing blog came to be, called What Blog, WAT blog, web advertising technology blog. So 6 months doing that, I said, let me write. Maybe more investors will discover jobs for freshers if I write about online marketing, and they'll realize that I am intelligent now. So I started blogging, and that blog, took off, because I used to write every day, and it became fairly popular. I started getting invited by the PR guys to attend PR, events. And one of these guys, is a good friend, Moksh, invited me to a PR event. And he told me, Rediff is looking for some blogging, something. Why don't you come with me? I didn't know what it was. So I went. So they were like, how do we engage with these bloggers? Rediff asked me. So I said, you can, but I will charge you a consulting fee. Okay. Now, in my mind, there was already things going on what I could do with What Blog, and What Consult as an idea was already sort of, bubbling. So they said, okay, come with a proposal. We'll give you. They didn't know what I was going to come back with, right? And I came back with a proposal, right, which I ended up presenting to Ajit Balakrishnan, okay, which was probably, I look back and I look at that as the turning point of my What Consult journey. And it was a product called, for Rediff bloggers per se, right? And I remember it was the early part of 2007, 2nd January 2007, when I had made this presentation, and I eventually made this presentation on 10th January 2007, which became the birth date of What Consult that we celebrate. In that presentation, I showed that presentation. I put names of team members who were these freelance bloggers, actually free bloggers, not even freelance bloggers. I couldn't pay the bloggers who were blogging on What Blog. They were doing it out of passion. At that time, the internet world was not as commercialized. So everybody was passionately talking about tech in What Blog. So I put their names saying they are my co-consultants. They will consult. Some of them were techies. Some of them were UX designers. So it was the right team, and I remember this laptop that I presented on was not even my laptop. My sister had gifted me on my birthday, right? So that is the only thing I had. And those 4 names and What Consult, not even a company created, okay, per se. And I presented that, and Ajit Balakrishnan said, this is brilliant. Pay him handsomely. These are his exact words. Now, you don't say that to a Sindhi. So I'll never forget those words. Ajit I have immense respect for him. And then Ajit's marketing director was, he's a good friend again, a guy named Manish Agarwal, who was later with Nazara and all that. And then started email negotiation, my first negotiation, right? Which created the seed capital. So I sent them a cost of building that product for just consulting. I send them, I can say the amounts now, it's okay, it's been a lot of time. I sent them 9 lakh rupees. Okay. And they shot back saying, you're crazy, we will not pay you anything more than 3 lakh rupees. This is what you are charging is US consultant fee. So my big reply, and I marked a CC to Ajit Balakrishnan in that. Okay. And I said, if US consultants could have come up with this idea, then you would have paid them this money, right? So why wouldn't you pay it to me? Right? And I sent that mail very boldly. I didn't get 9, but I got 8 lakhs. Which is not bad, right? So and
I don't see you complaining.
I'm not complaining. And 4 lakhs was the advance. So that became seed capital for What Consult, which was no company, just a laptop, just a domain name booked at that time, and a blog turning into what started as a Web 2.0 consulting company. That's the first tagline we gave it in 2007. So that's the start.
It's fascinating, Rajiv, listening to you. I think many times we think that this whole entrepreneurial journey is you just come up with the idea and then you go about building it out. I think the evolution that you described is really the real stories of how entrepreneurs come up with ideas. It's very incremental. It's through a lot of struggle, ups and downs. And then what happened after that?
I'm just remembering, I remember at that time I had 3,000 rupees in my bank account when I was negotiating these 3 lakhs and 9 lakhs. Because all the salary I had got for the 21 days and whatever else I was earning from Jobs for Freshers had only got me that much. I had to reinvest everything. So yeah, it doesn't matter how much is in your bank account. It's what value you bring is what you should be pricing, right? That possibly is the learning from that, right? Yeah, so this kick-started what consult. I went to my best friend, Gautam Bhatia, and I went to one of the early guys who I used to keep bumping into conferences, Eklavya Bhattacharya, who used to work for Pagal Guy at that time. And I was already talking about them. They were both blogging on what blog, right? I mean, Eklavya was blogging out of passion. So that they both two became my first victims to come together as the first employees, whom I paid out of this 4 lakhs and started What Consult out of my flat in Colaba. Now, this is also very interesting because my flat was under renovation. The whole building was under renovation. So its ventilation was completely blocked by wooden plies. Okay. There was no air in that flat. Okay. And we set that up with those CRT monitor computers, 3 of them, and wall fans. And I still remember this because we joke about it, obviously, Eklavya and Gautam. We used to sweat so much. We used to drink water, then go down, take a break after 1.5 hours, come back and sit and work again. It was not a very hospitable office in that context, but it was a lot of fun those early days. We were 4 to 5 of us, 2 interns, and we had early clients like Rediff, of course, which was supposed to pay us 4 lakhs more. And we got early clients like Bharat Matrimony, on whom we did a social search report at that time. And that started sort of picking up in 2007. And I made my first big mistake in hiring in late 2007. I hired a guy because we needed a content writer desperately. And we had got an advance of 50,000 from a parenting blog at that time to write content for them. I hired a guy at a higher salary than what I had hired these 2 guys, the first employee. Okay. And it was out of desperation, because of which my best friend Gautam, by December 2007, left the company. Okay. And I remember I tried very hard. I told him, take 38% in What Consult, please stay back. Right. And when he left, I had cried because he was my best friend. It was somebody I could rely on blindly. Right. But he just felt that he wanted to do something different. Right. He ended up doing another business, and which did very well as well. But that was the first sort of setback after a rush of starting up. My sister was getting married around that time, so I was in Jaipur in December 2007. And then I said, nothing doing. I still have money. I'm going to hire and be very aggressive. And we ended up getting a lot of outsourced accounts from Group M. We did Nokia, Frito-Lay, HSBC. These 3 top social accounts was handled by us as What Consult, outsourced by Group M. So the client didn't know we were handling this, but Group M outsourced it to us in 2008, right? And suddenly my one flat now had 15 people. Thankfully, the building had got done, so I could put an AC. So I could stuff 15 people in that chamber, right? And it was going great, right? I thought, this is it. I've got it, right? 15 people, business. I have so many projects coming in. I kept on taking projects after project. And I decided I need a bigger office. But I didn't want to spend for an office. I felt, the house atmosphere is nice. Okay. So I made my second biggest mistake. I went to Andheri and Jogeshwari, and I took a 3-bedroom hall, and I stuffed people there. And there were 25 people coming in a residential house where I had taken no permission. Guess what? I was in the cops office with my father because the people in that building complained This is just when things were starting to go crazy with Lehman Brothers crash around July, August. I didn't still see it coming, by the way. I thought we will recover money, eternal optimist. I didn't see it coming. And this thing broke me a little more because you were sitting with the cops, begging them, paying them off, saying that we will move from here. We will move from this office. This is not a proper office. You can't continue out here, right? You can't do a commercial business from a residential location. Guess what? We got through that. But 2 months later, realized there was no money coming in. All the agencies that I was working in stopped paying what consult. And there was more than 5 lakh rupees to be paid in salaries, which were not paid for 3 months, July, August, September, right? And October 2008, after 1 year, 10 months of starting this with that check of 4 lakhs, right? I was very conflicted. And my sister at that time was in Dubai, right? And when I had started Jobs for Freshers, she was the one who said, go ahead, start. My dad was panicking, but my sister said, go ahead, start. You are very young. Maximum what will happen, you will fail. Now, on a call, she's the one who said, you need to shut this thing down. What consult? You need to lay off these people. 3 months is more than enough, right? And I was having an argument again about this because I was keeping on justifying, ho jayega, some money will come, I'll make it happen, all that. And I turned around and there was a glass showcase, which I punched through and through out of frustration. And I don't know if it is visible. There is a line out here, like this, it's cut, which still reminds me of that stupidity. And cut to in a rickshaw, bleeding. We went to the hospital. There's a doctor who's stitching me up and saying, what happened? And I was even embarrassed to tell her what happened. It's like, why you feel so angry? What happened if you lost me? And it just came to me that if I can't keep my composure, I have no business in being in business, because business is going to be tough. And the only thing I can handle is my own behavior, my own composure, my own emotion, right? And that's when I laid off everybody. There was one client left. And I came back to this house where I had started Jobs for Freshers from, after going around 2 offices, 15, 20 people, 10, 11 clients, back to square one in almost 2 years.
It's interesting, Rajiv, and I remember being somewhere in and out of these stories at various different points of time. Yeah, I do remember at that point of time it was very interesting, because I think I remember meeting you once and I asking you nice dumbass question like any good marketing head would. Ye Twitter kya hai? So and you were explaining all these things to me, and I think there's a profound lesson over there, because 2008-9, I think, when you restarted your journey, you started in many ways, and if I remember right, taking lectures and explaining old bums like me what is social media and what is this marketing and what is Web 2.0, etc. Now, from there and creating an agency that you fundamentally then sold for, as Economic Times puts it, between 180 to 200 crores. It's been a long journey and lots of ups and downs in creating this market for something that neither the clients understand, nor there is a template, nor there is ready-made talent. How do you balance this in creating what you created, Rajiv? And how did you create it?
Very interesting. So obviously 2008, everything was to dust and there was just one client left and I was left, and I had no money because I had to take a personal loan to pay off the 5 lakhs that was outstanding as salary. So what blog was still going on, right? So for those 3 months between October to January, February, I did events, okay, which were panels and conferences, right? And I realized that people, and I made money out of those events. So I still remember I went to Chennai for, Bangalore for an event where in Hilton, I was carrying all the banners myself in a full suit, trying to struggle and get into a hotel because there was nobody else to help me for that event. And I didn't want to spend money on staff because every penny I was earning, I was saving it up to restart What Consult again, which I restarted again in that same Kulaba house with one full-time employee. From that 16 people, one stayed back and two interns. Now, while doing those conferences, I realized that knowledge and thought leadership is required. In those conferences during that time about digital in 2008 end and about, digital startup, nobody was talking about social media, right? And that when it struck me that, if I really want this to, scale up, I need to give these, interactions, these workshops as a person and get people educated about social media. I still remember one of the first pitches I had done, not about the workshop, but about social media to one of the largest banks in the country. The marketing director looked at me and said, social media is a fad. This is 2008 when I was pitching before the crash. Social media is a fad. It's not going to work. Obviously, 3 years later, that same marketing director was on a panel talking about social media, but that happened, right? So I started doing that in 2009. And I also did some other things very differently for business. I only went direct to clients. I stopped working with agencies, right? Direct. And I have this learning till today. The closest source of the money, always make that your client. The more the money changes hands, it's going to squeeze your margin. So go to the closest source of the money or the supply, whatever that is, right? Second, after few months in Kulaba, I invested in a professional office, right? And not one of those home office and the wire going in here. I got it done. I invested money in setting, in creating an environment of work, right? Third, I stopped taking projects, only retainers. Because between 2008 and 2009, I learned that cash flow, cyclical cash flow. I had attended this conference because I used to always want to learn more and more about cash flow and how cyclical cash flow can kill your business, right? Earlier, when I was growing, I thought I was growing by each project made me feel so rich. I used to start spending it on salaries without realizing when the salary will come. When will I pay 4th month, 5th month salary? So retainer business, workshops and direct clients and professional setting of an office, no matter how small, right? My first office was 180 square feet, by the way, right? Which had the washroom outside, a common washroom outside the office. It was in those Fort Lanes, Bazaar Gate, it's called. That's where after Kulaba in 2009, I shifted. So this started the journey. And I was extremely conservative with cash. I was not very aggressive, spending that cash and, speaking in events and all of that. And I also, even on workshops and other things, if it was costing us a lot to host it, then I was doing it lesser. Then I came across one of, our competitors. And I have great respect for Sanjay Mehta from Miram. He was going to Chamber of Commerce. Obviously, he was a big entrepreneur, just exited home India. And he was going to Chamber of Commerce and giving these workshops and other workshops. And I realized that my crash of 2008 had made me very conservative. His aggression made me realize that this business is now growing, Rajiv. You need to go very, very aggressive. So I tied up with this workshop company, events company. And I did Saturday, Sunday workshops almost every month, like crazy. 2 days, full day workshops on social media, Saturday and Sunday, 20 to 30 digital heads, marketers sitting in it. I did this continuously from 2010 all the way to 2013. 3 years of educating the market on what social media is. And I used to give away all the answers in that workshop. And honestly, those, let's say I must have taken about, weekends, about 100 days of these workshops almost, right? 100 days cumulatively, right? And the questions the marketers used to ask gave me a lot of insight into how they think. And I had to spontaneously answer because I was posing as someone who knew everything, right? And it created my reflex action answering of coming up with answers and understanding the space. And when I made a mistake, I hated myself. I went back, I looked at how could we solve this? And I would have an answer ready for it next time. So that gave me a sort of a I wouldn't say superpower, but a reflex action that every time we would go on a client pitch and the client tried to grill you, I had an answer. So I remember when I resigned from What Consult, one of the notes, one of my closest team members wrote that whenever the client asked the answer and nobody in the room knew the answer, Rajiv knew the answer. So he wrote something sweet like that. And I tried to think, why is that? It was because of these multiple workshops. I put myself through in front of 20 people. You have to answer. You look like a fool otherwise. Even if you do what Jaimit sir told me to do, how you say it rather than what you say, but convince them. That is what I did, right? And it took off. 2009, 10, 11, it started becoming more of a stable company. 40 people team, 50 people team, 60 people team by 2011, 12, so on and so forth. And almost 100 people team by 2013, and those were extremely exciting times for social media in India.
Yeah, Rajiv, it was exciting times, but I've never understood one thing. That typically a client is is much older, and he's looking to understand this thing that you obviously have an expertise in, and in walks in 322-year-old people. जिसको proper email भी how to draft, I'm not so sure. And for you to sell them for a retainer, how do you end up training these guys, attracting these guys, and how do you manage to sell that?
It was, we were early to the market, right? So there was a dearth, I always say, if you want to ride a wave, start early, right? You can't ride the wave when the wave is rising. You have to ride the wave when you can see it from far. It's going to take time to come, right? And become a wave. So it was timing. I mean, I can give myself credit, but I'd give more credit to timing. People were looking to do social media, but they were not looking to spend too much on it. And we were the only guys as 22, 23-year-olds. Our first retainer was 50,000 rupees a month, right? I was even okay if it was 25,000, but if it was 50,000, I was overjoyed, right? And we were ready to do it for a year at 50,000 rupees a month at that time. And clients were not willing to spend more than that. And they were wanting to check a box that social media is new. Let's check a box. This money was not worth it for the big agency, right? So they didn't get into it till much later, right? And we took it, and we had very low cost staff because everybody was a fresher. We never hired anybody experienced because there was nobody experienced there, in the market, so as to say. Yeah. So clearly we made the best of what we had, right? We were getting business, low cost business. We were getting young talent who were just getting out of Orkut, getting into Facebook, and then getting smarter at Facebook. So we just put them where they were any which ways hanging out and told them to figure it out, right? Do what the client says. Also, we built a reputation. One of the things that we had that other agencies over time could never have is our youth gave us the speed and responsiveness that a client was looking for this medium. The quick-wittedness, the on-the-feet thinking, and okay, you want to change this, we'll change this. You want to do this, we'll do this, immediate, which was a long drawn process in other agencies, because they were used to working in silos. I remember the first designer was my admin guy. He was the son of the cleaner in our office. So he became my admin, and that admin guy knew a little bit of Photoshop, so he became a designer. And at that time, that designer was good enough. So my firm belief is people try and go for perfection. You should always go for good enough for that moment and build towards making it better and better for the future, right? So at that moment, we were good enough for these even larger clients. Initial clients that we got was Warner Brothers, Neo Cricket. Neo Cricket is no longer there as a channel, but those were big clients. And they had nowhere to go for social media because big agencies would never do that for a retainer.
And Rajiv, as all this is happening, at some point of time, you decide to sell the business. Why did that happen?
I didn't decide to sell the business. I'll tell you how it happened. There was an Italian agency founder who reached out to me through online platform in 2013. So by then we were 100 people. We were making a lot of noise. Even What Blog was continuing till 2013. I shut it down then because it was becoming a cost on the books. And now What Consult was stable, right? And I just couldn't get myself to blog with all that is happening in the business. 100 people, 50, 60 retainer clients. It's just going out of whack. We need to find things. So when he sent and he gave me an offer, we obviously declined that offer. Then that had struck me that, okay, this business can be sold as well, right? And it somewhat was interesting. And we started getting offers. So we started getting an investment banker approached us and he said, we will get you someone. That didn't work out, right? And I was not looking at selling the business. I was just looking to explore. I've always been someone that if somebody came and said, try this out, I'll try it out. I'll try anything for one. So, and it's also a great way to understand how other people work. How did I even do business at 22? I used to go to hundreds of conferences, meet everybody from the earliest venture capital. So Sanjeev Bikhchandani, your Ashish Gupta of Helion Easy. I met all these guys as What Blogger, learning from them like crazy. So same way when somebody is coming to buy my business, I want to understand I want to just get a sense of it, right? And that one thing led to another. What started happening is that we started now beyond social media doing media buying. Okay. This was around 2011, 12, right? And our media buys started becoming very large for ourselves. So I remember in 2013, we were doing annual media buys of almost 3 to 4 crores, right? So on a quarterly basis, it was almost 1 crore of media. And I obviously had experienced 2008. And I said to myself that I was looking at those numbers and the credit periods and all of that in 2013, mid 13 and year end. And I was around April, we met Dentsu, right? And we declined the term sheet. Okay. We walked away from a fairly, I can say, $1 million term sheet in April. I walked away. I remember I took 20 rounds of a garden in Kolaba and then I said no, right? It took a lot to say no to that kind of business. But in those 6 months, we saw huge spike in media, huge, massive, right? And I realized that if my quarterly payments get stuck like 2008 due to anything, due to some Lehman Brothers whom I don't even care or know about in some another country, right? Which is exactly what had happened, right? And I was such a small fry in 2008, still it impacted me. So I said, if that happens and there is 2 crores to be financed, where the hell am I going to get 2 crores, right? And I looked at my father's Kolaba flat and I calculated how much would that sell for, right? I realized even if I sold everything that my father owned, I probably wouldn't be able to cover it. I didn't own anything except for shares in What Consult, right? And that in 6 months, when this growth started happening in media planning and buying, I realized that I will not be able to finance this business on my own and help it survive one bad quarter, right? And there was no way this business was going to get funding because agency business in that time, forget funding, it was only getting acquisitions. So in 2012, Vivek's company, Communicate 2 got sold, and these news was also coming, as a trend. So that's when I approached Dentsu again, right? But we set out some of our own terms before we signed that term sheet in around, I think it was about January, February 2014. And it took us 1 year, all the way till January end 29th, which is my mother's birthday, 29 January. I told them I'll sign it on this day, otherwise I'm leaving this deal again. On 29 January 2000, and I was bloody serious about it. Because it had gone on for 1 year. Imagine negotiation on 1 year on a final document. I told them if I'm signing it, I'm signing it today. Otherwise, you can take your money and I'm done. I will go back to building this business. And they turned it around and I signed it on 29th January 2015. The acquisition deal with Dentsu. We were 160 people by then.
So it's an interesting journey to from entrepreneur, one business, second business, third business. I don't know how many you've been doing, you Sindhi boy, but uh, just a little bit, a very short part of it before we move to your venture is that you suddenly, after signing a deal, in my eyes, from an entrepreneur became an employee, in my eyes. And
Yes.
I'm using it to provoke you
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
to give us a taste of what it is from being an entrepreneur to a brief period. And I appreciate till your buyout period. But how was that? And
No,
then
so
why would you leave?
it was, I would say it was a lot of, okay, it was a lot of learning. Okay. Uh, we were already uh, doing a lot of things because at 160 people, we were already doing a lot of things that one should be doing. And one person I must mention here is Hiru, my sister, who's the current CEO of Watson Pal. She had a very, very key and pivotal role when she joined in 2010, 11, in those 4 years to transform What Consult from uh, a loosely held business, that's how I ran things, to a professional organization. So we were already quite professional. But I think one of the things I learned from the whole Dentsu experience was the month-on-month tracking of numbers. The number focus that we built, and we built from 160 to 400 people, was absolutely brilliant with Dentsu. But yes, one of the things that I would say was different, that they had these, you have to move from, we were G Suite, Gmail for email, and you have to move from that to Microsoft. I remember fighting it for 2.5 years with them. They could never get it as to why I would do that. Why would I fight over email? It's just symbolic, right? Something that, and my answer was, if it's not broken, why are you trying to fix it, right? But I understood their point. They wanted the whole global team on one system. I obviously was looking at only from the What Consult perspective. I think few reasons why What Consult continued to stay highly entrepreneurial was we kept our offices separate, always, from the Dentsu, sitting together, right? Second, we had our HR, IT, finance, all the back-end operations separate from Dentsu, right? So that gave us a control of creating our own employee engagement, taking whatever decisions we wanted to, right? So barring these few, which in hindsight would be called small things, like changing of email infrastructure, changing of IT, and in general, attending monthly meetings and quarterly meetings, right? We were very much left on our own, which is why we scaled up even massively in those 4 to 5 years. And my way of looking at business is very simple. I did not sell 100%. I was a minority holder till 2019 December, right? So the way I looked at it is, as long as I hold any equity, I'm a shareholder first, which makes me an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurs can have 5%, 15%, 50%, whatever, right? And an employee second, right? And in any case, once your company grows, you don't run the company runs you, even if you are the CEO, especially a fast growing company. You become an employee de facto, right? I don't think there is any, how would I say it? I don't look at entrepreneurship as a higher level and employee as a lower level. Entrepreneurs would not be able to be surviving without really great employees that believe in them, right? In fact, entrepreneurs are full of flaws. It's great employees that make them look perfect. I am someone who is full of flaws, right? Full of idiosyncrasies and impulses and everything else. If you surround yourself with the right kind of employees, an entrepreneur actually succeeds because of that. But I get the point that you're making, that your autonomy would get reduced. I must give credit where it's due. Dentsu, at least to What Consult and to me specifically, did not compromise my autonomy. I can't speak for everybody else's experience in that network, but my personal experience was it did not compromise my autonomy to an extent where I wanted to quit even after having equity, which is why the moment the equity left, I quit because, and again, I did not quit because I had any problem with Dentsu. I quit for a very different reason. I believe at 35, with the kind of luck and opportunity that I had to build what I did, to create the kind of capital, to create the kind of credibility that I did. At 35, if I do not try to go back and create another enterprise, right? Maybe bigger than this, both from a personal standpoint of reaching my potential, as well as I always looked at enterprise as a way because I think business, it's my way to give back to society. Someone else knows how to make planes. That's their way of giving back to society. Someone else knows how to make medicine or research on medicine or cure cancer. That's their way of giving back to society. The only way I can give back to society is if I create a successful business, because that gives employment, it keeps people happy, and it keeps me happy, right? So that is why I jumped back in again.
A fascinating story, Rajiv. And as we're nearing the end, about RD&X. So X, I think, is exponential.
Yes.
Tell us more about it. I think this is a very different venture in a sense from what you did earlier. It's about deep tech.
Yes.
How do you see the world going forward? How does RD&X transform companies? What's your vision?
Yeah. I'll share my vision. So when I left in December, I'll be very honest, I didn't know what I was going to be doing. Okay. In January 3rd, I officially stepped down. January 31st was my last date at What Consult. In February, around my birthday, I came up with this idea. I was thinking about, I was reflecting very deeply on what made What Consult successful, me successful. And beyond my effort, tenacity, whatever, I mean, people, all that is there. But one of the single largest thing that made it successful was timing. Had we started it in 2011-12, maybe we wouldn't be that successful, right? Timing, 2007, we got the early crash course on running a social media anybody else. So even after falling down, when we restarted in 2009, we were starting with experience of what not to do, right? Some of it was obviously because I was not knowing how to do business, but that was a business course and a social media agency running course for me parallelly. And by the time the market was peaking 2011-12, we were professional. We were the guys to go to. We timed the market. So when I was looking at the last decade, 2010 to 2020, I realized that the single largest transformation that's happened across the world has been driven by social media. Facebook, whatever you call social media, Facebook, YouTube, everything has transformed the way we communicate, it transformed the way we interacted, network, LinkedIn, all of that. And what has already started in the last 3 years since 2017 is deep tech's impact on the world. So, of course, Tesla has been being built as an EV, EV sort of auto company for the last many years. But it's only when its AI has started becoming very, very powerful, it's got its valuation as the most valuable company in the stock market today. TikTok, which is the fastest growing social media platform, is fastest growing due to its secret sauce AI, right? Of course, due to geographic or geopolitical issues, it may be banned, but if it was, let's say, an American company, it probably would be the biggest social media engine today, right? In that context, TikTok. So looking at these two trends, I realized that deep tech is going to be a huge transformation aspect this decade, right? And that's my bet, right? That's where I'm putting all my money into, okay? Now, within deep tech, I see 5 technologies having a massive impact on every company over the next decade. This is XR, IoT, blockchain, RPA or robotics-led automation or robotics, even physical robots, drones and robotic delivery, any kind of robots, right? And AI. So these 5 technologies, XR, IoT, blockchain, robotics, and AI. Robotics, both bots, the digital bots and the physical bots, right? And AI. These 5 technologies will transform every business in the next decade. This is my bet, right? And different ways. It may not be all 5 together, but it will disrupt every industry. You take finance, it will disrupt it. You take, the visual merchandising industry or the visual industry or the retail industry with XR, AR, VR, it will happen. And this is what was going on in my mind in February. And I thought, great, I have 10 years. I will slowly start this. I will do courses. So I enrolled into an AI course in Babson and MIT and all the other courses I did in February. I was doing all my courses. I was like, okay, I'll learn, and I'll do it. Comes the pandemic, right? March, April. And I'm like, oh. By April, it struck me that what I was saying that will happen over a decade and maybe 15 years, because it took me 13, 14 years to get What Consult where it was. So I think in decades. I don't think in anything shorter than that. Okay. While building business, you need to first minimum put 10 years in advance. Like you put an advance for something, 10 saal pehle advance bana do, and then you think about if it happens in 10 years, you are lucky under 10 years. That is the way I look at it, right? So I realized that this is accelerating and it's going to create some massive behavioral changes. And even though I wanted to take my time starting my next venture, the pandemic accelerated my thoughts. I already had my vision deck ready because that's what I do. I put things on paper. Even jobs for freshers, this story is funny. I had put it on a paper napkin and showed it to my friends that this is the business I want to create. What Consult was made on a notepad and taken to someone. So this I had put on a presentation. Thoda advance ho gaya. Mac wac le liya abhi to paisa hai thoda bahut. So and I said I have to start this. So but how to start it? You can't meet anyone, right? You can't go anywhere. I'm stuck in Dubai, right? Because I was there for some work, right? And how to start it? So this journey has started very similarly to my earlier journey, a journey of struggle in a completely new environment where I started reaching out to entrepreneurs who are working in various deep tech businesses, whether it's deep tech impacting marketing and advertising, whether it's deep tech sort of impacting consulting, business consulting, deep tech impacting creative services, different kinds, definitely in areas where I could contribute. And I was looking at global companies, right? So I'm looking at mature markets because I do believe that while India is a great supply market for deep tech adoption in India purely because of what has happened with the pandemic now and its recovery cycle, as well as in general, the amount of money the Indian clients spend on transformation is going to be one smaller than what international clients will spend over the next at least 3 to 4 years. So over the next 3 to 4 years, RD&X is focusing on building a collection of companies, either ground up building them as products and services. So we've started building our products and services as we speak, or investing in a collection of companies that leverage both deep tech and gig economy, right? And impact 4 kinds of transformation: brand transformation, business transformation, media transformation, right? And data transformation. Because all of these are going to be impacted by, and these are areas that of course, where I come from, many of these areas. So, and I am now looking and searching far and wide, right from, I say Sydney to San Francisco. That's my way to say it. I'm searching from Sydney to San Francisco for companies, early stage companies that are showing promise, where I can come in as a partner almost. I wouldn't like to call myself an investor. I don't know investing, right? I am an entrepreneur first, but bringing my entrepreneurial expertise and bringing the low cost India back office, a technology excellence center and a global capability center out of India for these companies in different parts of the world.
Wow, Rajiv, that is a superb way to end it. From my side, we're running out of time. I would love this conversation to go on. It's been one of those amazing conversations that we've had over so many years in your Kolaba flat. I remember coming in your
Yes,
office near Lower Parel, that beautiful loft. I remember
yes,
coming and your
yes.
amazing offices, and I look forward to meeting you in your new avatar. And I hope not to come to your office because I'm assuming this will be the
There is
new.
no office.
There is no
We
office.
don't have an office. There is no office. We have 11 employees, no office. I have not met 9 out of my 11 employees.
I
9
love you,
out of my
man,
11.
Rajiv. This is the way to
I've
work.
not met them. I've not met them. This is going to be their sixth paycheck is going to cut December end. 6 months I've not met them.
Rajiv, long ago, I think you should have employed me. You still have a chance. Rajesh, any last words from you?
My
I think
problem is I respect you too much to disagree ever with you. So that is my problem.
Yes, and I love you way too much to ever have an argument with you, and I appreciate that completely. It's been a beautiful relationship, Rajiv, over so many years. But Rajesh, any last words from you before I close?
I think, Jaimit, it's been a fascinating conversation with Rajiv. What I love is the way the takeaways really for me are how to be an entrepreneur. It's the journey of an entrepreneur. I mean, I could relate to so many things that Rajiv spoke about. I sold a business at 32 years age, but those 8 to 10 years early on were uncannily similar to the way I think Rajiv has done. And I think this is a great episode really for anyone wanting to be an entrepreneur. I think the spirit that you'll never give up, okay, willing to try anything, those weekends, the talks, you're really, what Rajiv did in 2007 to 10 through his talks, etc. I did about the internet in 95 to 98, writing and then giving talks. So
that's really sweet of you.
It's amazing listening to that. I think wonderful. And Rajiv, wish you the greatest of success in your next venture.
Thank you, sir.
Back to you, Jaimit. But fantastic journey of an entrepreneur, I think.
Yes, and
thank you, Rajesh.
That's perfectly put, Rajesh. I think I'll probably end with an anecdote from my life. And I've seen Rajiv over so many years and all the pains and the struggles and the highs and the lows and everything. And there is a very interesting anecdote. So when I got married, so good Guju boy, marrying a Kachi girl, love marriage, salah, 20 saal pehle. Ek to getting parents to agree was a big issue and all of that, blah, blah, blah. And getting married, and I got married at 23 and a half, 24 years old. It's too young to get married. But having said that, when you're 23, 24 year guy gets married, the bride side, most of the uncles, aunties, beta kya kar rahe ho? And I used to be like, main idhar kar raha hu, main marketing job kar raha hu, ye kar raha hu. One very sweet uncle, I remember him today as well. Very, very sweet uncle looked at me and he said, beta, I'll give you a big advice. He said, when I didn't have money also, I never did a job. I used to eat 2 bananas and go to the stock market and try and make money. He told me one thing, beta, naukri, no curry. Jitna bhi kar, whatever you want in life, please don't do a job. And that's not, I probably should have listened to him. And it is the advice that I give my daughter and I give all my students. And I remember, Rajiv, that many years ago, when I was teaching your batch, I remember very distinctly asking how many people want to be entrepreneurs. I remember your hand being up and 1 or 2 hands being up. What I love about India today is when I ask the same question 18, 20 years hence, I mean, today when I ask how many of you want to be entrepreneurs, it gives me great pleasure that more than 60, 70% of the hands go up and say, yes, sir, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I think your story is something that would inspire all of us. And I think it's absolutely amazing. Thank you for being an excellent hippoBrain. It is far too much an emotional moment for me, Rajiv, to see you go from strength to strength. Thank you for being with us. Thank you, audience, for listening to us. And do press subscribe, press the bell icon to listen to such amazing hippoBrains. Here are a few hippoBrains from the past that we think will be relevant to you as well. Keep subscribing. It's available on podcast, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. And thank you.